So I'm sure all of you guys have already heard of the big news that Roe versus Wade has been overturned. I first learned about it by a friend of mine. He came over and he told me, and I think I was already hearing about it. Like I was seeing it kind of like out of the corners of my eye. You know how you be online and you be seeing people discuss things. You see articles, but you're not really paying attention. I was seeing it, but I wasn't really paying attention. And then, I started doing some research, and I was like, oh, damn, okay, this is actually kind of serious. And man, it's been a very big deal, because if you don't know, Roe versus Wade was a Supreme Court decision that made it so abortion is legal on a federal level, which means that on a state level, no state has a right to forbid a woman from getting an abortion, because abortion is federally legal. That was the result of Roe versus Wade. Now that Roe versus Wade has been overturned, abortion is no longer a federal issue. It's a state issue. So what that means is that now each state is going to have to determine whether or not abortion is legal or not. And if it is legal, what are the limitations as far as like certain circumstances or situations that might be seen as exceptions, right? Like one argument that a lot of women make is like, okay, what if she was raped? Would a woman being raped mean that she's an exceptional case and will allow to get an abortion? And then also, at what stage of the pregnancy would a woman be allowed to get an abortion? 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, whenever. If there's some type of health complication, or the woman's health is at risk if she does have the baby. It's all kinds of different scenarios that I see women bringing up, these exceptional cases where it would be reasonably justified for a woman to have an abortion. Again, like rape and potential health complications. It's obvious that the baby is going to be like fucked up, elephant man type shit, right? But one of the points that that I always see comes up is, and I think it's very, very true. The fact is, most abortions are not done for those reasons. Let's be real. Most abortions, it just comes down to, I was recklessly having sex. I was carelessly and recklessly having sex without protection, without being on the pill, without making the guy wear a condom. I got pregnant. I don't want to be a mother. And so I decided to get an abortion. Now, I'm not judging. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not fucking. I'm not a woman. I probably never will fuck. Right? So I really couldn't care less, to be honest with you. But I think it is worth bringing that particular point up, because I see so many women bringing up like these outlier circumstances where you could make an argument for abortion outside of the argument of my body, my choice, right? Where even someone who would be pro-life would have to like, okay, that's kind of okay, right? I get that. If you have the child, you're gonna die. Okay. But the fact is, those are, like I said, they're outlier cases. For the most part, I would say 8 to 9 out of 10 abortions have nothing to do with those exceptional like health risk rape cases. Most of the time, it's just, I got pregnant. I'm not ready to have a child. I don't want to have a child. I'm going to abort it. And again, I'm not judging. That's what it is. But yeah, like I said, now that it's overturned, it's a state issue now. Now, I'm not exactly sure about the specifics, because I've heard different things. I've heard that there are already different state laws, like different laws state by state that are in place, but haven't been active because of the federal law. And so essentially what we're going to see is, now that Roe versus Wade has been overturned, these old state laws that haven't been enforceable because of the federal law are now technically in effect, are now active. So, and again, I don't know state by state what these laws are, but one would imagine that there are definitely certain states that have straight up anti-abortion laws in place that just haven't been enforceable because of Roe versus Wade. I guess these are things that we're just gonna have to figure out as we move forward, because it's only been a couple days even to this point. So I found an article that we can dive into so we can discuss this on a deeper level. So let's get right into it. So the article says, in a historic and far-reaching decision, the U.S. Supreme Court officially reversed Roe v. Wade on Friday, declaring that the constitutional right to abortion, upheld for nearly a half-century, no longer exists. Writing for the court majority, Justice Samuel Alito said that the 1973 Roe ruling and repeated subsequent high court decisions reaffirming Roe must be overruled because they were egregiously wrong, the arguments exceptionally weak, and so damaging that they amounted to an abuse of judicial authority. The decision, most of which was leaked in early May, means that abortion rights will be rolled back in nearly half of the states immediately, with more restrictions likely to follow. For all practical purposes, abortion will not be available in large swaths of the country. The decision may well mean too, that the court itself, as well as the abortion question, will become a focal point in the upcoming fall elections and in the fall and thereafter. So look at what it says. The decision, most of which was leaked in early May, means that abortion rights will be rolled back in nearly half of the states immediately. So that shows that what we were talking about earlier is exactly the case. There have already been states that have anti-abortion laws, but they were not able to enforce them because of the federal law, because of the Roe v. Wade ruling. Now that it's gone, now the abortion rights that Roe v. Wade gave women is pretty much null and void, and the state's law is going to take precedent over that, as far as I know anyway. For all practical purposes, abortion would not be available in large swaths of the country. And one thing that we're seeing is that obviously there's a lot of outrage from women. And again, I'm not judging. I'm not judging, but it is, I can't lie. Like, this is my personal opinion. Maybe I am judging a little bit, but it really is kind of, just being honest too, it's a little disturbing when you see how passionate women are about wanting to kill their unborn children. It's quite disturbing, to be honest with you. And what's disturbing about it to me is how they dehumanize the child that's in their stomach just because they haven't come out of them yet, just because they haven't fully developed yet. That's what kind of concerns me about it. That's what kind of like rubs me the wrong way, how they try to like say it's not a human until it comes out of me alive and well, right? Which is obviously just bullshit. I mean, it's but this is an ugly thing. Like, abortion is an ugly topic that I'm just another reason why I'm glad I'm not a woman, to be honest with you. And I'm seeing things like women saying they're gonna have like sex strikes and things like that. And I've seen guys joke on R9K like, well, that's got nothing to do with us because we're not fucking anyway. So the article continues. Joining the Alito opinion were Justice Clarence Thomas, appointed by the first President Bush. Oh, okay. Bush Sr. And the three Trump appointees, Justices Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. Chief Justice John Roberts, appointed by President George W. Bush, concurred in the judgment only and would have limited the decision to upholding the Mississippi law at issue in the case, which banned abortions after 15 weeks. Calling the decision a serious jolt to the legal system, he said that both the majority and dissent displayed a relentless freedom from doubt on the legal issue that I cannot share. Dissenting were Justices Stephen Breyer, appointed by President Clinton, and Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan, appointed by President Obama. They said that the court decision means that young women today will come of age with fewer rights than their mothers and grandmothers. Indeed, they said the court's opinion means that from the very moment of fertilization, a woman has no rights to speak of. A state can force her to bring a pregnancy to term, even at the steepest personal and familial cost. And see, when I read stuff like this, it's disturbing to me because they act like the woman is the only one, is the only one in this situation. And the simple fact of the matter is this: it's not just the woman anymore. For like whatever you think, whatever you might believe, once you're pregnant, it's not just your life anymore. It's your life and the life of that unborn child. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. If I'm some, like, let's just say, oh, Chad Marco, some crazy man, right? Chad Marco, the crackhead crazy man. And I'm trying to rob a pregnant woman. And let's say she's 3 months, 4 months, 5 months pregnant or whatever. Like she's just barely showing her she got a little baby bump, right? And while robbing her, I kill her and the unborn child. You know, in all the articles, in all the headlines pertaining to this situation, in my case, they're going to say crackhead Chad Marco killed woman and child. Right? Killed pregnant woman and unborn child, died in the process. You know that's what they're going to say. They're going to add fuel to the fire. They're going to put salt in my wounds. They're not going to act like I just killed the woman. They're going to let it be known I killed a pregnant woman. So technically, I took the life of a woman and her unborn child. You know that's what people would do. You remember when John Jones, the UFC fighter, when he got into that car accident, when I think he hit some lady and then he ran away or something. Remember, she was pregnant. And so all the headlines were John Jones hit and run, pregnant woman. John Jones hit and run. They always made sure to let it be known that she was pregnant. And so I just find it so backwards how when the woman wants the child, when the woman has the goal of having the child, of keeping the child, suddenly his life matters. Suddenly it's not just some unbeing, it's not just some non-life entity parasite thing. Now it's actually it's a life that matters. But when she doesn't want the child, when she wants an abortion, his life no longer matters. That's what I find to be very backwards. Either it is or it isn't, you know. And I think, like, to me, that's what I don't like about hearing shit like this, you know. From the very moment of fertilization, a woman has no rights to speak of. What about the rights of the unborn child? Because like I said, if it was crackhead Chad Marco trying to knock over a pregnant lady and I killed her and the child, or just the child, they would use that against me. That would be in the headlines. In court, they would use that against me. But why is it that when a woman wants an abortion, the life of that unborn child doesn't matter? Now it's all about what the woman wants. You know, and I think that's what people really need to be consistent about. But like I said, it's an ugly argument anyway. It's very ugly. That's why I'm glad I have no dog in this fight. Excuse me. With sorrow for this court, but more for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection, we dissent, they wrote. Alito's opinion is a tour de force of the various criticisms of Roe that have long existed in academia. Alito's 78-page opinion, which has a 30-page appendix, seemingly leaves no authority uncited as support for the proposition that there is no inherent right to privacy or personal autonomy in various provisions of the Constitution. And similarly, no evidence that people's reliance on the court's abortion precedents over the past half century should matter. Alito pointed, for instance, to Planned Parenthood versus Casey, the 1992 decision that upheld the central holding of Roe and was written by Justices Sandra Day O'Connor, Anthony Kennedy, and David Souter, all Republican appointees to the court. Alito pointed to language in the Casey opinion that he said conceded reliance interests were not really implicated because contraception could prevent almost all unplanned pregnancies. In fact, though, that 1992 opinion went on to dismiss that very argument as unrealistic because it refuses to face the fact that for decades, people have organized intimate relationships and made choices in reliance on the availability of abortion in the event that contraception should fail. Not exactly the concession that Alito described. So it seems like someone is trying to bring up the point that contraception could prevent almost all unplanned pregnancies, maybe as an argument against abortion, but then someone else is making the argument that is quote unquote unrealistic because people are making choices with the understanding that abortion is sort of the backup plan for the backup plan. It continues, it is not unusual for justices to cherry pick quotes, but not so out of context and not from former colleagues who are still alive and privately not amused at all. In the end, though, Alito's opinion has a larger objective, perhaps multiple objectives. Writing for the majority, he said forthrightly that abortion is a matter to be decided by states and the voters in the states. We hold, he wrote, that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. As to what standard the court should apply in the event that a state regulation is challenged, Alito said any state regulation of abortion is presumptively valid and must be sustained if there is a rational basis on which the legislature could have thought it was serving legitimate state interests, including respect for and preservation of prenatal life at all stages of development. In addition, he noted, states are entitled to regulate abortion to eliminate gruesome and barbaric medical procedures, to preserve the integrity of the medical profession, and to prevent discrimination on the basis of race, sex, or disability, including barring abortion in cases of fetal abnormality. Ultimately, the translation of all that is that state appear to be completely free to ban abortions for any reason. States appear to be completely free to ban abortions for any reason. Yeah, so I guess that's gonna be what's interesting moving forward. Like, what states are going to double down on anti-abortion laws if there are already some that have been on the books for years, just they haven't been relevant because of the federal law? Like, how many are going to say, okay, let's double down on this? And how many are going to say, okay, well, we're going to put certain, we're going to have, I guess what you could say, more balanced laws. Like maybe some places are going to say, well, you can get an abortion, but it has to be within the first 16 weeks, you know, and this really opens up a lot of new doors as far as the upcoming elections are concerned, just like what was said earlier about it. Because now this is an issue that the people are going to have to address state by state by state, politician by politician by politician. Like what's going to be your stance on abortion? Before, it really didn't matter much because of the federal law and decision regarding the matter. But now, pretty much every House representative, every member of the Senate, all of these guys are going to have to step up and let their opinion be heard, so that people are going to vote accordingly. Because women, I believe it's still the case that women are the largest voting base in America. I think women vote more than men. So, and I would argue as well that most women are probably in favor of pro-choice as opposed to pro-life. Again, I don't have the numbers to back that up. I'm just assuming. And so it's going to be interesting seeing how politicians respond to this, because it's like, are you going to alienate one of the largest voting demographics for the sake of your personal beliefs? Or are you going to sell your soul? Are you going to concede? If that's not what you believe in anyway. But like I said, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating moving forward. So there was more to the article, but that's all we're going to cover for now. But the thing is, obviously, like I've said before, I'm a male and I'm not sexually active. So me personally, I don't really feel very much affected by it. One thing that I hear a lot of people talking about on 4chan, and leave it to 4chan to talk about the real issues. But just being real, you see people talking about how one of the negative consequences of this decision is that a lot of the people who get abortions come from poor areas. They come from low income areas, right? You know where I'm going with this. A lot of people who get abortions, let's just be frank. They're saying that a lot of these babies that are being aborted would have probably grown up to be criminals, would have probably grown up to be degenerates, because of the fact that a lot of people that get abortions tend to come from, these inner city hoods, projects and shit like that. They like me personally, I know girls who've gotten like 3-4 abortions, several abortions, from around the way, so to speak. And so there's essentially there's this idea that most of the women who get abortions are like hood hoes and thoughts, degenerates, hedonists, shit like that. And so these are the people that you want to be having abortions, because they're aborting like future criminals, future degenerates, future unsavory characters and things of that nature. That's one thing that I've heard. That's one point that I've heard a lot of guys making on 4chan. And I don't know how true that is. I'm just throwing that out there because I thought that was an interesting point, because you have to wonder what type of woman is getting the most abortions. What type of woman is more likely to get abortions, And is it the woman who is on the path of living in a 2-parent household situation where she's a house mom with a dad and kids and the 2 dogs? Like, are those the ones getting the abortions? Or is it the girls who are out here just throwing pussy around? The girls who would end up being what do you call it? Teen moms. The girls out here getting gang banged by thugs and shit. Like, what type of woman is more likely to get abortions? Have legal abortions been acting as a way to limit the amount of future degenerates born into the world. I know that's a very ugly, dark topic to cover, but I found that a very interesting point. You have to think about this sort of thing. Like, what type of woman is more likely to get an abortion? And if what happens when we do not allow women who do not wish to be mothers, women who are not cut out to be mothers, women who practice poor mate selection as far as a would-be father is concerned, what happens when we do not allow these women to abort children? Although it seems like they end up having kids anyway, but maybe instead of 2 or 3, they end up having 5 or 6. So who knows, man? Like, it's a very complicated issue. I know that's a dark, ugly point, but I do think it's something that's relevant to the conversation. But whenever stuff like this happens, I always have to do a bit of reflection as far as like how I feel about it, right? And as a man, it doesn't concern me as much because obviously I can't get pregnant. Although hypothetically, unlikely, but hypothetically, I could get a girl pregnant, right? And so if I got a girl pregnant, because I've thought about this before, if I got a girl pregnant and she wanted to get an abortion, I'll put it like this. I would not be comfortable with that. I would not be comfortable with it. Now, my thing is don't make the mistake in the first place. that's the goal. But if you should end up in that situation, what would I do, right? If I happen to end up in those circumstances, what would I do? I would not be comfortable with the girl getting an abortion, and I would do as much as I could to prevent her getting an abortion if that was her goal. Now, I'm not about to like kill the bitch or something, right? I'm not saying go to those limbs, but I'm just saying whatever is humanly possible for a man to do in a situation like that. I don't know what you really could do depending on the state law, but I would argue against it because me personally, I wouldn't be comfortable with it. Because the simple fact is you're killing an unborn child. I mean, it is what it is. You can sugarcoat it all you want, but that's the bottom line. And I wouldn't be comfortable with that. And the thing is, I know a few people who have gotten abortions. And I know this is my anecdotal experience. But I know that from the people that I've talked to who have had abortions, whether it was women or men, I could tell that there was like a sense of regret. Maybe not even like regret, but it's like you can tell, I could tell talking with them that they feel like they did something wrong. Like it's a stain on their consciousness. Now, I'm not, obviously all women don't feel like that. Like some, some women, they're absolute savages. They don't give a fuck. Some niggas just do not care at all. But I'm just saying that from the few people that I've talked to about it, and we had a deep conversation about it, I could tell it's a stain on their consciousness. It's hard to explain, but I could tell that they're not 100% comfortable with the decision that they made. It's almost like a selling of your soul type situation. Maybe not that serious, but it kind of reminds me of like when you see girls who had to resort to prostitution or something like that. Some girls, they fully embrace sex work and all that comes with it. But then you also have those girls where it's obvious that they did it for the convenience of it, but still it's a stain on their consciousness. It's a stain on their integrity and their morality. And that's just the feeling that I got having talked to a few people about it. I could tell like they're not 100% comfortable with the decision that they made to get the abortion or to go ahead with the abortion, or from the male perspective, like, oh, go ahead and do it, I'll give you the money. Like I can tell like it bothers them somewhat. And I know, me personally, it would bother me. It would bother me more to get the abortion than to just accept the fact that I got a girl pregnant and deal with the responsibility of that. It would bother me more. It would be much less convenient, obviously, but I think that having that sort of stain on your consciousness is, for me, the way I am, is worse than just stepping up and handling my responsibilities as a would-be father. But that's my opinion on it. Quite frankly, again, it's none of my business. I'll put it like that. It's none of my business. But me personally, as a man, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go along with it. I would do everything that I could to get the girl not to get an abortion, as much as I could. But even more so, I would avoid getting in that situation in the first place. I think that's, moving forward, whether you're a man or a woman and whatever you believe in, I think one thing is crystal clear. Your goal should be to avoid ending up in that situation to begin with. There are way too many ways to keep yourself from having to make that kind of decision to begin with, legal or illegal, legalized or not. You have so many weapons at your disposal to protect yourself from that, right?